Hello there. This is going to be video number one in my other series that I am doing on my channel, where it's called DevLog. I know, super creative title, but it's basically just a typical kind of behind the scenes look at some of the day-to-day development of the games that I'm working on, and it'll be really casual. I kind of have two main projects that I'm working on, so the format will basically take the form roughly of we talk about maybe where we're at in a project, what we're trying to accomplish on any given day, and then we'll kind of circle back at the end and see how we did, and talk about some of the things that we learned, some of the challenges. And the cool thing is with this series, I want to focus. I want to bring in my team members from time to time. My identical twin brother Eric, who works on games with me with doing art and programming, and then my youngest brother Brian, who is the composer and does all the sound. So if if any if any sound or music or anything like that in the game, that's all done by him. And so I think it'll be cool. I think just I mean, I certainly feel very blessed to be able to work on games with my two brothers. And so I think that it's kind of a unique thing, and I think that it could be interesting to others to who are interested in kind of behind the scenes of game development. So my other series is Game Dev Building Blocks, which is kind of a more educational series, whereas this is like a little more kind of casual hangout series. So I guess I'll introduce you to one of the projects. And so this project is it's heavily inspired off of a successful game called Phasmophobia. So if anyone has played that game, I know that game has a lot of fans. There's some people who don't like it, but it's a game that I enjoy playing with my friends. My brothers and I, we especially do enjoy playing it. And it's one of those games where we really love it, but there's certain maybe rough edges or certain things about it that maybe we kind of wish were a certain way. So I think like a project like that is a great place to kind of get inspiration because you're not having to reinvent the wheel and redo everything, right? So a lot of the basics we feel were really awesome, right? So the idea is to kind of implement those, but with a twist, right? And kind of do our own thing. So we'll talk more about the games and stuff as the series goes along. But I guess as far as what we're trying to accomplish today, so I've been blocking out kind of the main, I guess, area, which is kind of a double story house, and basically um, I've been working on adding colliders so that the player can travel around the area. So what's kind of interesting is even though there's visuals, at the end of the day, like the game only sees this, right? So it's like pretty simple, like pretty basic, right? Um, but right now, like the big problem is that um, I'll turn down the music a bit so that you can hear me better. Um, uh, but basically, um, right now, the the big thing that I'm working on today is so I kind of where I left off was like I did a lot of the floors and stuff. You know, um, Kind of getting the floors in place. But the big problem is that you can just straight up walk through the walls, right? There's no colliders for the walls. So one of the big things that I'm trying to kind of work on today. I don't think I'm going to get to all of it because it's definitely a little bit of a big job. Is to try to get the colliders worked out for the walls, so that we could start to kind of feel how that's gonna end up working on. It's kind of cool. The sound of the footsteps is actually something that's brand new. I was working with my brother Brian today to implement that, so that's definitely a cool um, a cool thing that kind of just gives the feeling of weight, as you're walking around, hearing those nice juicy footsteps. So anyway, yeah, that is where we're at. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably, record myself working, and I'll end up, speeding it up so that it's not like it doesn't take forever. But we'll just do like little clips and stuff of working, and then we'll kind of circle up back and kind of, see where we're at basically, and see how much we can get done. All right. So here we go. I just decided to speed up the footage here because it's a little bit monotonous, but this is just me kind of adding colliders to the scene and getting them all lined up. Um, so one thing that I will say is maybe why I'm doing it the way that I'm doing is I'm I found out from reading the Godot documentation that for static bodies, which is what I'm using for the walls, if you have one collision shape per static body and that collision shape has not been transformed or rotated or scaled, then you have access to a higher performance algorithm for calculating some of the collisions. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm doing it the way I am. Just wanted to make a little note here that sometimes you will find yourself doing these certain things in game dev that they can be a little bit monotonous, right? I'm just kind of placing these colliders, and there's no real thinking involved. I just got to do it. But actually, what I recommend is just like like maybe putting on some music and just kind of it can be a very zen like experience because you don't have to think as hard as like when you're trying to solve like you're trying to like figure out the AI of your enemies in your game and like how that decision tree is all going to work, right? Like that's a lot of like really active thinking, and you have to like really think about what am I going to do for my algorithm and things like that. So I have like different playlists that I use. I find that sometimes it can be helpful to listen to some of your favorite music from some of your favorite video games. Like I've got a bunch of like Zelda music, a bunch of Kingdom Hearts. What are some other games that I like the music for? Castlevania. Um, just different soundtracks that maybe inspired you and got you into game development to begin with. It can be kind of helpful to listen to that while you're doing this stuff because it can kind of remind you like why you got into this in the first place. So that's just one thing that I will say that can be a little tip when you get to these kinds of stages of game development where you have to kind of just do something over and over. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. The other thing that I kind of found out while I was testing this, which I thought might be kind of interesting to show, is that I kind of have a little bit of a problem where basically with the colliders for the walls being the way they are, um, basically the player's flashlight is gonna basically clip into the walls. Um, so there's a couple different routes we could take to maybe solve this. One of them is to basically add on to the collision shape that we currently have for the player. So right now, it's basically let's see, you can see it here. It's this kind of capsule shape here. So what we could do is we could add another one that would basically uh, give us a kind of an extra kind of front end, I guess you could call it, to make sure that we don't actually accidentally clip. So we could try doing that. And what I'm realizing is, let's see, I'm trying to think. I think what we can do is we'll just add another collision shape, and we'll just do a simple box here. So we'll do. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. Collision shape 3D. What does it say? Oh yeah, because I don't have a resource. So we'll give it a box. We'll just do this. We'll call this uh, held item. So basically this is the collision shape which will simulate the kind of the idea of basically having a held item. So if we kind of size her up here, and this is one of those things where I just want the basically all I'm trying to accomplish here is so that it doesn't clip. We don't clip the basically our flashlight stops clipping into the wall. So if we maybe do something like that, and then if we bring it up a little bit, so it's kind of like a little bumper. Think of it as like a little bumper that's gonna stop. So let's see how this goes here. Oh, hold on. Let me not turn that on by default. Okay. So, and the other thing I have to consider is that this is supposed to be only for when you're holding an item. So we may want to toggle at collider on or off depending on if you're holding an item. But now you can see it's much better. We're still getting a little bit of clipping, especially on the side. Um, that one might be because I don't have the wall set properly. Oh yeah, no. Dead on, it definitely is still clipping a bit. All right, let's try playing with that shape a bit here. So let's see. What if we did this? I wonder if we matched it, if that would help at all. Oh well, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I keep forgetting to turn this off before I test. So let's see here. Okay, so that's definitely better. We could still go into the wall from the front. But yeah, I think it's because I don't have the correct collider set up here. I don't think I have like a double thick wall there yet. But the only thing is, like, is it going to be annoying? Are you going to catch on doors on your way through? And then there it kind of goes through. Interesting. Oh, you know what? I know what the problem is. So this is kind of a subtle thing. Because this collision shape is not part of the neck joint, it's not actually turning when we turn. Um, so what we could do is I think we can make it a child of the neck. Um, and no, we cannot. It needs to be the child of the player. So this is where things get a little tricky. So what we could do is we could approach this a little bit differently. Um, we could instead do a cylinder shape and then make it like this. Then basically position it. So we'll just zero out the X and the Z. And then we'll just make the radius, oops, not that. Maybe like 1.2 or 0.75. So that way, no matter where the player's facing, there's a little bit of this that can kind of give us a little bit of a bumper. Um, Now, the only question is, like, how will this work with walls? We have to keep that in mind. Um, but let's just try this just for a starter here. So basically, to clarify what the problem was, is that the box collider that I was using for the flashlight was basically only facing this direction. So as I'm rotating here, even though visually the flashlight's rotating with it, the actual collision shape is still pointing in this direction. So now here, so see now I've got a little bit of a buffer. I can still clip from the side. Yeah. I think I'm going to need to make that a little bit of a bigger radius. So let's try 1. I guess what I could do is I can show the flashlight so we can see kind of how far it extends. Yeah, so I'm going to need it to extend further probably. Either that or I could bring the flashlight back a little bit. Um, Trying to think what I want to do because at a certain point, like I don't want the collision shape to be cumbersome for the gameplay, right? That's kind of the biggest thing is like let's try that and just see what that feels like. I have a feeling it's going to feel a little bit cumbersome. Ah, shoot. Okay. It's not the worst. Actually, it's working pretty good. I just want to know if I can get through these small doors. Yeah, see, that's the problem is now I can't get through these small doors. Hmm. I wonder at what radius I can get through the doors. Like, can I get through with radius 1? Yeah, I can. So, yeah. Hmm. Well, it doesn't look so great there. Probably going to talk to the team a little bit and figure out what we want to do about this. Um, we could, let's see, let's just really quickly just to test. Let's see what happens if we pull this back a bit. And then maybe in on the body a bit more too. Yeah. And ultimately that might end up being better. It's hard. I mean, it's kind of funny. These decisions are tricky because like it makes me think about like for games like Halo or Call of Duty where you have like these really big weapons, protruding forward. Um, how you can get around that. Let's see. I think what I may do is I may play with it a little bit more where we maybe do more in and then out like that. I think I can actually look through the camera perspective while I'm doing this so I can have a better sense here. I thought there was a way. Um, I could have sworn there was a way to look through the camera. Let me do a little Googling here. Hmm. Maybe I do this. And then, yeah, and then I can preview. There we go. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. So the problem with that is that it's a little bit too. Just trying to find a happy medium here. Let me see like what the furthest. Oh. Oh, I don't even need to do that. Okay, so we're good. So let me do this, and then I can change here and see here. So I think it was the X that we were messing with. Yeah. So if we put it there, and then maybe like there. Yeah, it's probably still gonna clip, unfortunately. Hmm. I think ultimately we may be chasing our tails here, and it may be better to come up with just like a box collider and then find a way to rotate it via the neck joint here. Um, but it is kind of interesting how this happens like this. So I guess the only other thing that I'm curious about is yeah, I'll talk to the other guys and see what they know about this. Um, let's test that and see what that feels like. So that's pretty good. It's still squeezed through the doors. Just trying to see if there's any kind of weird situations. Yeah, you can still clip a little bit there. That might be just the fact that I just might not have the collider totally set up there properly. Yeah, there's some slight clipping there. It's tricky to know. I think I'm gonna call that good for now. Just to kind of address the obvious problem of the clipping, and then I'll just make a note to the guys that hey, this is something that we want to look into, and this is kind of my shortcut solution, but overall, we may want to go with something a little bit more um, specific to the actual um, the actual geometry of the flashlight and other pickup items. The other thing is we might want to build some logic so that that collision shape is only active um, when you have an item. So that way, otherwise we don't have to worry about it too much. But yeah. So anyway, just a small little problem tackling I thought might be kind of interesting. Those are the kind of things that can come up throughout the day, and you just want to take some time and think about it a little bit. It's not that you have to have the answer right away, but you can try a couple of quick fixes and then circle back to it later. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on that as we go forward. One last kind of clip for the day, and then I think I'll call it a day on this first devlog here. But just kind of something that's important to keep in mind is to the extent that you can get people who are um, not working on the game to test your game, the earlier the better if possible, because you can get some really good feedback. Like one thing that was kind of interesting is basically me and my youngest brother, who's the sound and music composer, and on this project, we were basically trying to get the footstep. We were working on the footsteps, and we were trying to kind of one of the things that's kind of tricky is you're trying to match it to the what's happening on screen, right? So I'll let you guys listen a little bit here. So one thing that was kind of interesting was when we started working on the footsteps, me and my brother, we were really keying in on the head bob, right? So there's kind of this subtle head bob on this motion controller that we have. And we were like really kind of making sure that each footstep kind of matched with the head bob. Um, but it's funny because we spent a lot of time on that, but then when we had our playtester test it, the immediate feedback was I'm like walking faster than I'm stepping. So basically, the player was much more tuned in to how the actual walk speed, like the actual speed of the walking, how that felt with the footsteps, and didn't really care about the head bob so much. So that was kind of interesting because it made us realize that we were, kind of, you know, focusing in on, kind of the wrong thing because what we thought was important to the player in order to get the feel correct was not actually what they were, focusing in on. So I think that's just a good lesson as far as uh, you know, just getting feedback early because when you're working on the game, it can be this really zoomed in perspective, right? And so you can start to kind of maybe you can start to really analyze certain details that may not be important to the player in the long run, and so it can be useful to have someone test it so that they can kind of point you in the right direction. So that's just always a good lesson. I know we don't always have people to test, and that can be a little bit difficult. But to the extent that if you do have someone that can give you feedback, it's definitely worth pursuing, I think. Um, so yeah, we'll wrap up today. We ended up doing a good amount of work on the downstairs colliders. There's a lot of uh, walls that are now working, which is nice. Um, so yeah, we'll just kind of keep grinding away on that. Try to get that done, and then try to kind of update maybe with some more visuals. Maybe get some things going there. And yeah, so we'll see you in the next version. Thanks for sticking around. Take care.